I really enjoyed the fresh new take on the Invisible Man.
Please listen to me.
For your own safety.
Please, Brandon, please. I see you.
You're saying the person trying to kill you is in the room right now, but we can't see him?
Adrian is stalking me.
From what I heard, the Invisible Man was supposed to be a part of this re-rollout of all of Universal's classic monsters. So they start off with the Mummy reboot, which I wasn't a big fan of, and a lot of people weren't a big fan of, but I'm so glad that they scrapped that and went this route, because I feel like this was a great retelling of a story that we all are kind of familiar with. And I know some people had some criticisms because they say it gets too far away from the original concept, but I beg to differ. You know, the criticism is that, you know, the Invisible Man is about the Invisible Man. You're following it from his perspective, how he slowly goes, you know, crazy. I would agree. I would argue that it's actually much more compelling to watch a girl run away from her psychotic ex-boyfriend who happens to have an invisible suit. I don't know, just something about that storyline did it for me. I mean, the original's cool, but I did like, you know, more of that train of thought, you know? The victims of the matter. Not worrying about his neuroses, but who it affects around him, because he's toxic. Everybody's out of their mind in this scenario, so yeah. Our heroine in the story is played by Elizabeth Moss, and can I just say, from watching her on Handmaid's Tale all these seasons, I always believe the pain that she's in. She's like one of those actresses, like, you know, like Viola Davis, where if they're like crying or screaming, like you believe something is happening to them and you just want to figure out who did it and why. Quite enjoyable just to see her lead in a movie like this. I thought it was amazing. I thought it added a whole new level of stature to the film overall. Can't wait to see more of Elizabeth Moss in these big screen movies where she's the lead, and because I think she has like all the range in the world, and I'm just a big fan. Can we talk about Aldis Hodge? Just a little Aldis Hodge appreciation just for a second, just for a moment. Let's take a moment. Such a treat to see him on the big screen in this way. His resolve is constantly being tested because he doesn't believe her, of course, and he's just trying to see her get back on her feet. He realizes he essentially can't protect her from what he believes to be herself. Just really trying to be a friend and help her out. And he's in law enforcement, so you have kind of like this sense of comfort. Oh yeah, she was living with a cop, but oh no, you know, shit goes down. I thought that was like a good thing to kind of insert in the narrative to kind of complicate things a lot more, and it made the story a lot more spicy. Very metaphorical for, you know, what I assume like is abuser behavior in general, or it's not actually not very metaphorical, but maybe it could be a metaphor for after you get out of those relationships and you still like have those, you know, traumas from when you were dealing with that person who just wanted to sabotage your life and make sure that you had nowhere else to run with them. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but that's just kind of, you know, me reading into it a little bit. Throughout the whole thing, you want to say, oh, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? But when you think about it, it's like, well, you know, would any of us fare any better in that situation if an invisible person was attacking us and we knew who it was, but everybody around us thought we were crazy because we thought it was a dead person? You see what I'm saying? So I feel for her. I can't relate, but I can relate. Overall, it's nice to just see a fun movie. You know, people go to these suspense horror thriller movies because they want to be jolted, and, you know, and I did have a couple jolts, especially early on in the movie, where, you know, the opening is she's in this big luxurious house, but for some reason she's trying to sneak the fuck out. And she makes her way out and it's so desolate, you're just like, oh. And then when that first like big jump scare hits you, you're like, oh, okay, this is the tone of this movie, I'm down for it. But yeah, I just, kudos to everybody who put this together. It was a treat. Now, a lot of my friends aren't into like spicy like horror films, like hardcore. They're not into that stuff, but this is something a little bit more their style that I could recommend and that they would watch. So if you have friends like that who are kind of just like, I don't like scary and the monsters, this is kind of like that happy medium.
Is that